Hi everyone. Most of you probably know me because it wasn't that long ago I was chatting with you about images, photography images, but tonight I'll be talking with you about AI, and generative AI more specifically. So this is a session I've done in a couple different places, so it's well trodden ground. But the interesting thing about AI is you could make slides on this, and about 3 weeks later they're out of date because things are moving on really, really quickly. But I think a lot of the concepts hold, so hopefully this is pretty useful. So, stuff that we're covering today, we're going to be talking about the basics of generative AI, and I'll talk about what generative AI is just in case anyone's kind of catching up. We'll spend a lot of time using a tool called Midjourney, which is my preferred AI generation tool. There's a whole bunch of them. Like, I'm pretty sure Facebook and Instagram let you do it now. So there's a ton of image generation things. Midjourney is the one that I tend to use. And I'll spend a lot of time talking about prompting, which is the kind of the art of using words to ask AI to do the thing that you want. So if you've used ChatGPT, you know how to write a prompt. It's very similar for a lot of other AI image generation tools. We'll spend just a little bit of time on Photoshop, probably not very much, because Photoshop does have some generative AI functionality. I want to spend a little bit of time on legal stuff and ethical stuff because I don't think you can have a conversation about generative AI without touching on some of that. And this is where if you've kind of, I know a proportion of you will be at this talk kind of going, okay, bring it on. I can't wait to have a debate about AI. And that'll be the place for that. So let's wait till we get to there. And I'll also talk about applications of this stuff. So like I use generative AI for images for a whole bunch of different things and they fit into my creative process, even if all of my finished product is not generative AI. So I'll talk through some of the stuff that I do as well. Now, today's not hands-on. If we tried to make it a hands-on session, I would spend my entire time helping you get Midjourney set up. So if you really want to follow along and you've got Midjourney, great, go for it. But I'm not going to pause to help you. Um, we've got the recording for this, and I'm going to send the slides to Tim to send out as well. So like as we're looking at prompts, you can look at the slides and grab them from there as well. So I think for this one, if you really want to, you can try running along with Midjourney, but just sit back, especially if you're at home in your PJs, avoiding the storm, and just watch and enjoy. All right, so generative AI, that's the thing that we're talking about. And I'm going to keep saying generative AI. Why am I saying that instead of AI? We've got AI in like a whole bunch of stuff. Generative AI is a different category of artificial intelligence. And like for regular AI tools, you probably already use them a lot. So, for example, if you've got a lot of modern cameras have eye autofocus and they use AI algorithms to understand where faces are and where eyes are. You've probably got tools that are using like AI for sharpening or noise reduction or a whole bunch of things. That's not really what I'm talking about today. So I'm really spending more time about talking about generative AI. So this is where you're creating stuff that wasn't there before. Um, like it's the thing doing the generation is making stuff up from somewhere. And there's a bunch of different flavors of this. So for text, ChatGPT. Has everyone used ChatGPT? Like, I'm pretty sure most of us will have encountered ChatGPT from time to time. There's a bunch of different um, text-based generative AI tools. Bard, I actually think it's not called Bard anymore, is it? It's called something else. There's another one called Claude that I've been using that seems really good. There's a whole bunch of text generation generative AI tools. For video, there are some new tools that are being created, and they're just crazy. So if you haven't seen some of the work that people are creating using video generation tools, it will blow your mind. And it doesn't look like it's finished yet. Like it still looks rough, but the amount of the stuff that can be made is really pretty incredible, and it's getting better and better all the time. There are music as well, music generation. I use a tool called Suno every now and again, which is so much fun to play with. And if you're a musician, you also want to stab me at this point because it you give it a prompt and it takes about 30 seconds to generate two 1 minute songs. And sometimes they're not bad. So these are all tools that are just in their infancy and starting to get really, really popular. Um, For image generation, there are a ton of different tools. Like I said, Midjourney is the one that I use most of the time. Um, Dolly and Stable Diffusion are two probably more powerful systems with some different features that I don't tend to use. Um, Photoshop and Firefly have some less powerful implementations that are simpler to use. Bing, again, Facebook, Instagram, Google, Apple's building it into their system, Android's building it into their system. I'm pretty sure it will not be long before toasters have generative AI tools built into them. Like they're just, it's everywhere. It's ridiculous. So like it's generative AI is all over the place. Um, I like to find out kind of who's used generative AI tools and stuff like that. So these slides say hands up, and I can't see you because a lot of you don't have your cameras on. Um, but I'll tell you what, if you're in Zoom, are there little, are, are the emoji things there?
Yeah, we can use the chat section in the.
That's a great idea. Tim, you're very good at this. Oh, look, I'll just put that over the screen. All right, so I'll tell you what. If you've used ChatGPT or a text-based tool, then shout out in the chat. Or if you're in the room with everyone, Tim, tell me how many people have used ChatGPT. Looks like no one's used ChatGPT. What's going on? You're on mute, Tim. As much as I like you being on mute, probably not going to help me understand you. So you're still on mute.
space bar.
Dallas,
The
Dallas,
space bar's
you
not working.
Oh, there you go. Dallas has worked out the thumbs up thing, which is good. So I don't have that on my toolbar, which is a shame. But if you've got the emoting thing, anyway, it sounds like a couple of people have used that. Have sing out if any of you have used video or music generation AI tools. Anybody? Tim has. Excellent. Um, okay. Last one of these. I mean, maybe not actually. Who's used generative AI imaging tools? So hands up or put something in the chat or Tim, tell me how many people there are waving at you and flagging you down.
But we've just all entered NZIP, so we've been using generative AI imaging tools
Oh,
in all our images.
don't you start. I I know those rules and they're yeah, good luck to you if you do that. I've helped with a couple of competitions rules, and yeah, generative AI is definitely not not cool for most of them. We'll talk about that too. Okay, I won't get you to do your hands up. It sounds like a bunch of you have never used some of these tools ever, and that's totally okay. So that's fine. What I'm going to do is take you as a bit of an introduction through this stuff anyway. So, like I
You're
said,
going
there
to
are
take us to the dark side, Kris.
well, it's you know what, a lot of it is kind of the 2 years ago. That 2 years ago they would have been babies. That things have changed so much so quickly. Um, it there is a lot about this that I don't love that is dark. There are ethical questions, but there is a lot of power there, and we're never putting this genie back in the bottle, right? Like this is with us now. So that's kind of why I think it's good that you're coming along to this because it's at least good to understand what the tools are around and what they do. All these different tools that are image-based tools, they all have pros and cons, right? Some of them are better quality than others. Midjourney, I really like. I think it's one of the cutting edge tools and it's got good quality. Firefly was not great and it's getting better. Photoshop was not great and it's getting better, but it's still pretty primitive. Cost is a thing. I pay a subscription fee to Midjourney. I think it's like 20 bucks a month. And apparently uses quite a bit of computing power to do this. So if you've got Photoshop, if you're already paying for the Creative Cloud suite, you already have access to some of these tools, and they're included in your subscription. So like cost is a thing. Some of them are far more powerful than others. The tools that are available in Photoshop are pretty limited. Some of the tools, like Stable Diffusion, allow you to give it a wireframe or a sketch of something and it will use it as a rigid basis for the image that you're creating. So there's quite different levels of power with the stuff. And ease of use, Firefly is really, really easy to use. I think Photoshop is pretty easy to use. Midjourney, I'd call mid-level. So generally, the more powerful something is, the harder it is to use. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like ownership and copyright. there's a we'll talk a little bit about training sets pretty soon, but one of the big issues with AI is there's it's not always clear that the tool that is doing the work for you has the legal right to be trained on the images that it's using. If you use Photoshop, it's fine because Adobe indemnifies you as a user, and they say we've only trained ours on images that are legal to be trained on. Other tools are not that way, so that's something that's worth checking out. And also the age of the training set too. So we'll talk about training sets in a little bit, but some of these tools have brand new training sets and some are older, so they just kind of reflect different images. All right, I'm going to talk about how this works, and this is going to be a really, really weird explanation, and it's not going to do it justice in any way at all. So if you know anything about generative AI and you're going, Kris is going to explain all this, yeah, this is going to be very disappointing to you. But this is kind of an easy way of looking at it. So does anyone have multiple PhDs? Tim, you'd have multiple PhDs, wouldn't you?
I'm sitting next to someone who does.
Oh, oh, is this your front seat driver?
No, well, go on. Used to
Okay.
work for CSIRO or something.
All right.
Yeah,
So
there
you
you go.
might please tell me you have multiple PhDs in maths
No.
or stats.
She's denying all existence.
I would be so happy if someone said they did have that because this is my joke, because clearly no one has that.
You go,
So
Fujiku's got one.
one, I'm looking for multiples. So, it's like, okay, good. All right. So this whole generative AI thing is really weird. What the way this it works is it'll take an image effort to train itself, and it'll add noise to it over and over and over again until it destroys it, and then it figures out how to reverse that noise process in order to bring the original image back. So it might take an image and apply noise until it is unrecognizable, and then using some very, very weird mathematics, it understands how to take this random noise and use contextual clues from the text that maybe went with this image and other visual clues to bring it or something very similar back. This seems like crazy magic, and it kind of is. It's a terrible explanation from me, but you'll kind of see what I mean when we start getting into Midjourney, how it takes noise and it perturbs the noise to extract images out of it. Something that it's not is cutting and pasting images. And I think a lot of people think, oh, generative AI is like it created a turtle. So it must have taken the turtle shell from this picture and the turtle head from this picture. It does not do that. So that's not at all how this stuff is made. And like the the data set that you use to generate stuff is small enough that you can download it onto your computer usually. So it doesn't contain all of the images ever known to civilization. It contains algorithms to help create them. So it's definitely not cutting and pasting of things. These are the tools that I tend to use. So Midjourney, which we kind of talked about before, it's got a not a great user interface. It creates an entire image for you, and you can also use it to create portions of an image. Has a monthly cost. I think the visuals are really up to date and powerful, and the prompting is really powerful too. I use Photoshop as well. It's it's relatively primitive. The prompting is okay. If you already know how to use Photoshop, it's kind of easy to use. Photoshop's kind of more designed to augment an existing image. So, I've got a person and I want to put a basketball in their hand. Well, I can use Photoshop to do that. And it's included in Adobe Creative Cloud if you want as well. So it'd be easy to start with Photoshop, but we're not gonna. We're gonna start with Midjourney. Look, there's my little cue for the last time I taught this, and I didn't reset the time. So we should be 24 minutes in, and we're 19 minutes in. So we're doing all right. I mean, no one's asking questions yet. Maybe this is good. All right. So this is what I'm showing you on the screen is what Midjourney looks like. And if you're looking at this going, well, this is a very strange user interface, you are correct. It uses an online tool called Discord, which is it's usually that's a tool that's used, like my son uses it when he's gaming to chat with friends while they're playing computer games. So it's a platform that does a whole bunch of things. And Midjourney have said, right, we'll just hook into that and we'll use that as a kind of our home base for generating images. So that's one of the reasons why the interface is a little bit clumsy. But basically, you have a text prompt, you can type some stuff, and then images appear, and you can scroll up and down and We'll have a look at a live version running soon. They're working on a new interface for Midjourney, and I think it's like I've got access to it now, so it's a little bit prettier and a little easier to use. So that's coming soon. The main thing about Midjourney is prompting, and this is what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. So prompting is like it's a sentence that describes the thing you want. It's a bit like when you go to Google and you're searching for something. You're kind of for me, when I'm searching for something, I'm trying to think about the words that'll be on the page that I want, and that way I get a good search result. Prompting's a little bit like that. It's just a way of being really specific about the thing that you want. Um, so here's an example. When you're in Midjourney, and in Midjourney, the way you do this is you type /imagine, and then this thing pops up saying, "What's your prompt?" And then you type in the prompt that you want. So when I was prepping this course, I said, "Okay, great. Well, let's try a prompt that is a man sitting at a table." And then you hit enter. And then Midjourney goes away, and a few seconds later, the way Midjourney works is it creates four images for you together, and they sort of start off being very out of focus and weird and noisy. And you can see on this one, it's like it's 15% of the way through. And then eventually these images kind of coalesce into view. So when I said Midjourney, give me a man sitting at a table, these are the four options that it gave me. And this probably took a minute. So it kind of unfolded right in front of me. Now it didn't go to the internet and find these. It didn't construct them like a composite from stuff that's out there. It created this based on the training data that it had been trained on. And like I look at some of these and I go, oh, goodness, like I don't know that I could make something this cool as a photograph. And this makes me both very excited and very sad at the same time. But you kind of get the idea that uh, with that one little phrase, a man sitting at a table, it delivered me four examples of exactly that. All these people look really sad. I wonder if men sitting at tables are sad. Tim, look around. Can you see men sitting at tables? Are they sad?
We're all very happy here
They're all very happy. Well, clearly I didn't say man sitting at a table near Tim.
with
Okay,
a
so
smile.
with a smile. There you go. So for me, I kind of wanted someone, maybe not these pictures. So then I'm going to go off and refine it. You know how when you Google for something and you can't find it, you go, okay, well, I'll try Googling something else. You're kind of doing this, right? Like you write your thing, you test it, you don't get what you want, so you change it. And this is what happens with Midjourney as well. Like you write the prompt and then you run it, you look at what you got, and you go, that's not quite what I wanted. I'll be more specific. So let's try this. And I think when I was doing this, I was picturing something specific. And then it's like, okay, well, let me talk about what I'm picturing. An old man in a red coat sitting at a cafe. And these are the four options it gave me. That's pretty cool. So it's like, what did I actually want? And then I'm thinking, do you know what? I was picturing sitting outside at a table. So let's be specific about that. Now I'm starting to add even more details. An old man in a red coat and a scarf sitting at an outdoor table in Paris. You know what? These kind of scan. Again, I'm looking at this going, that's not bad. Like um, it looks like Santa Claus while he's, on his summer vacation, which is a bit strange, but um, this is you can see the difference between me being less specific with my prompt and then being more specific, giving it kind of more information. Does that make sense? I'm just going to assume you're. Oh, see, Kushla's nodding. Thank you. I need a nodder in the audience, and you're doing it, Kushla. So thank you for being my nodding friend.
That's right.
Um,
We're just wondering which red you selected.
I didn't. I said you choose. So
It's interesting, isn't it? That
yeah.
red it chose.
And again, this is that kind of um, cycle that I went through for this. So I'm going to dive a little more into prompting and kind of how it works. And for me, there's sort of three things that you see in a prompt. One is the scene that you're trying to create, which we've just done, like the man sitting in a red coat at a table in Paris. One is the style of image that you're creating, and we'll go into that in a minute. And then some extra parameters to help control kind of what the image looks like. So here we go. Um, in this one, you can see I've described the scene, right? So that text on the bottom left, an old man in a red coat and scarf sitting at an outdoor table in Paris. I've described the subject. I've described the location. I've really started to describe items, implies if you're sitting at a table in Paris, there's stuff. So that's kind of the scene. I'll say now as well, like I will send these slides out. So Tim will send them to all of you. And if you want to, you can open Midjourney, and once you get it up and running, you can try these yourself, and you will get different pictures than I will because there's a randomness as well. But then you can go through and iterate through these and try these yourself as well. So let's talk about styles. So style is kind of the visual style of the image that you're creating. And I'm going to change that prompt to say an old man in a red coat and scarf sitting table at a table in Paris, but I'm going to add photograph of to begin with. And these are the four things that it gave me. That dude at the top right definitely looks like Santa Claus, except he's on a bender. So maybe that's a bit different, but um, they're all still really sad. I don't know why I've not noticed this before, but maybe I should have had them sitting with someone and they might have been happier. I don't know. So you can see these look like photographs, but let me try a painting of. So I've only changed the prompt to say, give me a painting, and it's given me a painting now, or something that looks like a painting. Um, Pencil sketch. Okay, so these all look like pencil sketches with selective color. That's a bit sad. Sorry, anyone that doesn't like selective color. Um, or an abstract long exposure photograph. If you know my work, you know this is my jam, and this was actually really interesting to see what it made. The one at the bottom left, I love. And if I'd taken that as a photograph, I think I would have been pretty excited, which again, I find scary. It's exciting and horrifying. Um, Comic book style, and this is what it gave me. So you can see these all look like a graphic comic book, or axonometric view. I didn't know what that word meant. I found it in a style guide and tried it, and you could see that it's giving me this kind of overhead, almost sketchy view of things, or Disney cartoon. And at this point, you're kind of going, "Oh my gosh, I'm starting to get the the power of this because these all look like they could be characters in a Disney cartoon." Um, and the variety of styles and things that you can use to generate these images is pretty huge. And I'll show you a tool a little later on that it's a good library of styles, so you can look through to find more styles and things to play with. I'm going to pause there for a second. Does anyone have any questions? And if you've got questions, throw them out while we're here. I can see the chat window, so if you want to put questions in the chat, that works. If you want to come off mute, that's cool too. And if you've got no questions, I'll push on.
Kris, I'm sorry, I joined a bit late to the Zoom call.
No worries.
Are you on a particular program that is generating these AI images? Yeah.
Yes. So Midjourney is the one that I tend to use.
Right.
And
Midjourney.
yeah, and you'll have the slides, so you'll be able to look through. I think I only talk about Midjourney 1,000 times. So you'll see which one it is.
I haven't
But
missed it.
you haven't missed it.
Okay.
Good question. Thanks, Roger.
Can the prompt take the form of a visual cue, or is it always a word cue?
Do you know what? That is such a good question, because if you'd asked me that 6 months ago, I would have said it's a word queue, but now I'm not so sure. Because I have done some things where, like you know what? I've never used a a picture and I've said, make me something a bit like this. Oh, I think I have actually. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I'm just turning my answer around in my head, and I should have thought quietly. Yes, there are ways you can use pictures as sources. So we'll talk about one of those in a little bit. Now, the way you asked that made me think about some other things I want to try. So I think there probably are some things where you could give it multiple pictures and say, oh, I like it in this style with this character and this mood, and maybe it would do that too. Does it let you know if it doesn't recognize words in a prompt? No, it doesn't. It'll have a go at whatever you give it. So it's actually kind of interesting. If you use prompts in a different language, sometimes the results you get more reflect the cultural biases of that language. And it's because it's not trying to it's not parsing your sentence and working out what the nouns and verbs are. It's using some, I guess, machine learning to just find things that match. You can give it a garbage prompt and it will come up with something. If you use the same prompt, would it be the same or different? It will be different. So these are all random. And if I use the same prompt twice, I will get something different. There is a way you can say, oh, I'd like you to use the same random seed as you used for that one to repeat things. That's possible too. But there's bazillions of different things you get. So no, I'd say you'll probably get different results to me if you use the exact same prompt. And we can experiment with that later on. So when we bring up Midjourney later and we start playing, let's try that and see how we go.
Kris, can you ask it to suggest some other things or other images once these four come up and you think, oh no, that's not quite what I want?
You can. And sometimes you can say, look, I kind of like this, but I want you to vary it. Sometimes you can say, just give me four new ones, please. Or you can do the thing which is like, if you don't like it, sometimes going, well, why don't I like it? Ah, because these are all this view and I want this view. Refining your prompt to get the thing that you want is part of it. So there are a couple of different things you can do to zero in on your target. And we'll kind of talk about how you practice and how some techniques that I use to get better at prompting. When you see that, then you'll have some really good ideas about how to, I guess, refine prompts and get closer to the thing that you want. Wow, you guys have great questions, by the way. So this is
They're all
good.
ready for action, all ready for the next step.
All right. I'm gonna go to the next thing. So we talked about the scene, we talked about the style. Let's talk about parameters. So you can add in Midjourney, you can add parameters on the end of an image, and it will give Midjourney some hints about how to do it. And it'll allow you to change the aspect ratio of the image. That's a really important one. Like if you've noticed, everything we've done so far is square. So because by default it's square, but you can ask it to change the aspect ratio, or you can change the amount of kind of wild chaos it uses while it's interpreting what you've given it, or the version of Midjourney, because it does improve over time, and sometimes you might want to go back to a previous version. So let's have a look at this again. And we have the old man in a red coat and a scarf, blah, blah, blah. And then I've added a parameter at the end to change the aspect ratio to 3:2. And it's given me four images that are in that aspect ratio. Or I could say aspect ratio 2:3, and it's given me four portrait-oriented images. So that's a way that I can kind of control the specific dimensions of the image that I get back. I mentioned chaos before. This is the exact same prompt, but I use this chaos parameter and I set it to 100, which I think is full. So now it's just gone, right, well, I'm going to go crazy. And where all of these were fairly measured, you can see it's pushing some boundaries there. And it's really, really interesting, the stuff that you can make when you do this, because it's like I have used this for ideation sometimes just to give me ideas about things that I could try. All of these as portraits are actually kind of cool. They fall apart when you look at them pretty closely because they're all AI, but they're all pretty cool. There's another prompt or parameter in Midjourney called weird, which looks like it does more about kind of changing camera angles and stuff like that. So you can kind of see like that, the bottom left one, his hand does not look okay. It looks more like a fish than a hand in a glove. You can see it's an interesting choice of framing, like it's framed out the face. That's kind of interesting. So that's a good thing to experiment with. You see in all these ones, there's a cup on the table. Like in all of these, there's a glass, oh, maybe not all of them, that one there's not, but quite often there's a cup or a glass on the table. I can add a parameter where I say no cup. I don't want a cup. And now I've controlled, it knows, right, well, I will avoid putting a cup in. So this is another way you can kind of refine your image and get closer to the thing that you want. All right. So I've given you some examples of writing a prompt. So
They seem to be smiling when you take the cup away, Kris.
Why? Oh, why is that? No, they're mostly still cranky. I think they're still cranky. I think they're going to be cranky old dudes. So, I don't know why you're at a table in Paris, dude. Like, this is great. I would be sitting here smiling if it was me, but that's just me. All right, let's talk about.
In Paris, they don't allow you to sit at the table unless you're spending money.
Okay, well, I'm assuming these are rich people, and Santa Claus probably does have quite a bit of money in his bank account, so he's probably doing okay. All right, let's write some prompts. So we've kind of some of the things we've talked about. We start with the scene, the main subject, those details, having an aspect ratio. This is kind of what I do. I sort of think about that scene. I think about the aspect ratio that I want. I think about the style that I might want to create, and then I'll try it and I'll see what happens and I'll adapt it if it wasn't really great. I found this online. This is an interesting example of one person's structure they always put into their prompts. And if you hunt around, you can find all kinds of examples like this. And none of them are like the exact thing you have to do. They're all just techniques you can try. So this person write some fairly complex prompts, and they always do it in a certain wording style. So start with a visual, talk about this like a portrait of, talk about the subject. Here's the subject. What's the pose? What's the scene that they're in? What's in the foreground and the background? How's the lighting? How's it framed? And then starting to play with other pieces of it. Like that's an interesting structure that someone has created.
So just a background thing that you probably haven't consciously talked about, though, but this is very similar approach to storyboarding.
Yeah, it is.
So you're using it as a storyboard process that someone who makes movies might use. So in context of using as a photographer, you're using this to just build your ideas and look at some options.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I've done, and I'll go through some examples of that too, where it's going to come up with things that are, I think, silly or not useful, but it also will come up with other ideas. And it's a bit like throwing ideas around with a friend, just having a chat, and you come up with a lot of bad ideas, and that's okay. But now and again, you'll find a good idea as well. Um, all right, so there's this format here. I'm going to try this format and we'll see how it works. So let's say that I want to make an image. And if you've been to any of my talks, you know that I'm a bit of a Marvel movie fan, although that's getting really old now because they've only produced terrible movies lately. But anyway, I thought, hey, let's do an image of an alien on a planet. So um, this is me attempting to write a prompt using that format that I found on the internet. Let's give this a try. So I want a movie poster of this green-skinned humanoid alien. Let's put them in combat clothes and boots. Let's put them in a fighting stance. So that's a pose. An alien planet with a desolate landscape. I know what I'm picturing in my head, and this is kind of it. We've got the alien in the foreground. We've got other stuff in the background with the depth of field, dramatic lighting. We want a full body shot, and I haven't refined it because I haven't tried it. So I wrote this prompt, and I gave it to Midjourney. And I've tried to kind of color the text in here so you can see the different pieces of it. And those are the four results that it gave me, which I find really, really interesting. Like, that's a pretty cool image. And it looks a little bit like a movie poster. And I didn't specifically say put a flying pterodactyl looking thing in the background. It decided to do that. I didn't say make it dusty. I didn't say have, a three-fingered alien, although Midjourney's really, AI tools are notoriously bad for doing good hands. So, but I was also picturing a hero, and this doesn't look like a hero to me. Oh, pardon me. So let's see if I can make it more heroic. I'm going to add the word heroic into my prompt. Still not very heroic. Like all of these people I do not want to meet in a dark alley. They all look kind of mean. So let's go over the top. Let's say good guy and one of the good guys and triumphant. It's not getting the memo. It's not listening to what I want. I haven't found the key to making them look nice. Maybe I could have said smiling. Maybe that would have done it. But you can see how I've attempted to kind of go from one to the next by just changing a few words to see if I can change the results in order to get what I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think a humanoid might be throwing it out. That's why it's not, more accessible.
Well, I didn't want it to be a human though. I want it to be an alien. Like that's part of it. But that's a fair question. So you could try removing that and changing something else.
Yeah.
All right, now this is a really specific prompt. I've been very careful to put lots of words in it. What if you don't have a very specific prompt? And this is a bit like Terry, your question before about like if it doesn't recognize words in the prompt. Look, here's a prompt, confusion. It's not specific at all. And this is what Midjourney gave me. And again, I'm kind of like, you know what? Some of this art is actually really cool. It's scary. It's also soulless. It doesn't have any of that human connection that an artist has. There wasn't a lot of effort. I typed the word confusion and 30 seconds later, these things appeared. So there's not been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this. But that's the only word I gave it, and it came up with something. Or if I say confusion, I'll use that chaos parameter. Well, now look at the strange stuff that I'm getting. So at this point, you're probably going, oh my gosh, you could stay up until 3 a.m. just playing with this, giving other things. Like tomorrow, there's a fun prompt. Or 23, I don't know how it got that scary looking castle at the top right from 23, but it did. So it's kind of creating images anyway. It's going to go off on its own and do its thing. You're nudging it in the direction that you want when you give it prompts. All right, so let's have a go trying this live. Ignore the 5 o'clock bit. That's crazy talk. We could try this live until 8 o'clock. Probably that would probably work. So let me just see if I can switch my browser correctly without causing big problems. To Here we are. Okay, we're in Midjourney. So now I'm sharing my live browser. So I'll just yeah, I won't show you all my bookmarks because you don't care about that. But this is basically looking at the Midjourney user interface. You can see last time I was here, I had a go at making a deep space astro image. But all right, let's create something. So anyone want to volunteer a thing we could create using Midjourney? Just throw an idea out there.
I think we need a new camera club photo. So the one that we've got on the website was a very early Midjourney, but we probably need to refine a good shot of all the camera club members to attract other camera club users.
Oh boy. So how about I do imagine a group of enthusiastic camera club members. How's that? Is that a good start?
You'll probably get aliens.
Oh, we'll find out. So let's
no
go.
humanoids.
Let's go 3 to 2. Let's see if it makes a nice sort of a big set of people. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Now, when I do, immediately it's going to send the command into Midjourney. It's queued up on their server somewhere. And after a few seconds, it's going to pop up a little grid of 4 images. And you'll see that they're kind of fuzzy to start. And you can see it says 15%, 22%. It's having a bit of a think. So it's about nowish that it starts. It's going to make a liar out of me, isn't it? It's about nowish it starts to put those little fuzzy images up.
And you are Drone 7059, eh?
I am Drone 7059. A long time ago at my corporate job, my ID changed from my name to 7059, and I went, oh, I'm just a corporate drone. So my handle was Drone 7059. Okay, so it's finished creating this, and these are the 4 images that it gave us. Those look like they look like a group of enthusiastic camera club members.
They do.
Look at the top right. Those could be actual people, although some of those people only have 3 fingers. Some of them have 3 arms. What's going on? So
yeah, the one in the middle's got 3 arms holding the camera.
Yeah.
All right, so let's pick one of these. Have we got a favorite? Let's pick on you, Roger. Have you got a favorite you want me to expand?
Top left.
Top left. All right. So I'm going to say, let's take the one at the top left, and I'm going to click this little button here called U1, which is going to upscale that one at the top left and do a higher resolution version. So it's the exact same kind of base, and this is a higher resolution version. And at this point, the dude on the top right, he's got really serious problems. Like, that's not great. I don't know what brand these cameras are. You're probably getting the idea that these look pretty good at first glance, and the longer you interrogate them, the worse they get. That is very normal for AI images. They're notoriously bad at structure, text, things that we take for granted, like fingers and eyes and stuff like that, although they're definitely getting better. All right. So we've got these. I love that it's chosen one in black and white, actually. I'm going to upscale that one because it looks really cool. Let's have a little look at that one.
The black and white. Can we go 16:9 as well?
Would you like that?
Yes, please.
All right, good. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just re-render this, and I'll start again. So I'll go imagine bit, and then minus AR 16:9. Now, what do we want to change about this? Like, we're not going to get the same images again anyway, but were you picturing something different? Should they be in front of a clubhouse or a beach or on the moon, or should some of them be, should they all be in a landscape? Pardon me. I'm so glad I prepared myself the tiniest amount of water to last me for this entire talk. That's great. What kind of landscape?
Iceland.
Mountains.
Yes.
Standing in, do you say Aspen?
Iceland.
Oh, Iceland.
Yeah, that's a good one.
In Iceland. Okay, let's just try that. Let's see what happens. Now, I haven't explained Iceland. I haven't given any other clues than that. It's really using that training set that we have talked about a couple times, and we'll talk about again, to kind of go, oh, here are photos that were taken in Iceland. This is what Iceland is. So it's using all that to interpret what I've given it to come out with something that will probably look like it was shot in Iceland. You see how I have to riff and keep you busy by just chatting while it's loading? Okay, we're coming along. Immediately I'm going, oh, I wish it was like a snowy thing here. This looks like every photograph of a photography group on site I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, how freaky is that? I want to see a couple of these. I want to see two. Yeah, their faces are a little mushy, but still, it's not bad. Um, okay, so
Yeah, the gloves hide the fingers, you see.
is that the trick? All right. Was anyone picturing something different? Like,
I was thinking it would be a winter scene.
I was too, and then I went, well,
Yeah, a black beach.
that'd be Greenland if
Oh,
it
we
was a
need a
winter
black
scene.
sand beach.
Okay,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Winter, uh, standing on a black sand beach in Iceland, winter, and we'll say it's cold. All right, let's see what we get. Oh, I forgot something. When you get Midjourney, you're going to do what I did, which is you forget to type the word imagine. I do that all the time, and it's super annoying. And I sit here waiting, and nothing happens, and then I go, oh, it's because I messed it up. So let's try again. Okay. So it does take about a minute to go off and think about some of this stuff. Like, I find I'll include words like winter or cold, and sometimes it'll interpret that as a color temperature thing. Sometimes it'll interpret it as a temperature thing. It's okay. It's just experimenting and trying different things. And it's quite interesting what you come up with.
What
If you give references to things like pop culture or like current affairs, does the engine kind of pick up stuff like that? So if you kind of ask somebody to look like Donald Trump, would it know what Donald Trump looks like, for example? Or
Yes, I'm going to unpack that. There's three things there. So pop culture, it will usually understand. Current events, it depends on how recently the training set was made. So if this was trained on images that were 3 years old and older than that, then it wouldn't know anything about recent like the conflict in Israel, for example. If you asked to do something like that, it wouldn't have that. Well, I mean, it probably would because that's not exactly a new conflict. That's a bad example, but it wouldn't recognize current events because it's been trained on an older thing. Names, depending on the engine you use, sometimes it'll go, no, that's a real person. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes it'll go, yes, I'd like to make this Donald Trump image. I'm probably not going to do one of Donald Trump because I don't want to have that in my history of Midjourney when I try and get into the States and have them go through my social media. So we're not doing that. All right, how did we go? Black Sand Beach, wintertime, group of photographers. These are looking pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
pretty good.
This is where I find this amazing that it's using it. This is getting really close to what I was picturing when we talked about this. Is there anyone that's sitting here going, no, it's not quite what I was picturing? Sounds like a no. Okay, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to make one change. I'm going to make a couple changes. Group of enthusiastic camera club members of all ages standing on a black sand beach in Iceland, winter cold with an aurora night.
How about a close-up?
Oh, now I've hit enter. All right. So that's actually really tricky. That can be hard to do. Like sometimes it won't listen to framing requests like that, but you can cheat. Like if it's zoomed in too close, you can say with red shoes, and it goes, oh, okay, well, I need to include the shoes, so it's going to zoom out and do that. I think because we've chosen the 16 by 9, it's not going to be a close up. I suspect if we try this again with a portrait orientation, it will be closer. So let's just try that.
Kris, you're using a Mac,
I am using a Mac. Yep.
and what's the RAM storage?
Well, this is all happening on the web, so this is not an
Oh, right.
application.
So it
This is
doesn't matter
this is
how fast your computer is.
no, this is all happening somewhere else.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of these that you can download the engine locally and run it. I don't do that. I am a nerd, but I just don't have time. It's like there's too much troubleshooting for me to do that. But yeah, this is all happening in the cloud, basically.
Mhm.
All right, so this is kind of not bad. So we've got this photography group. It's a black sand beach in Iceland in the snow with an aurora. It's faint,
Yeah.
but it's there. It's like, okay, cool.
Asking for the age has got to show your faces.
Oh, clever. I was actually hoping there would be some kids there, so there'd be like shorter people, but but there aren't any. Now, what do you notice about these people?
No camera.
Well, there's no cameras. That's true. Maybe they're all in the jackets. They're all white. There's a whole lot of cultural bias that's burned into these. So, this comes up in so many ways. If you use English and you ask for a picture of a doctor, you are probably going to get a white male. In fact, let's try something. I'm going to try this. So, hello. Imagine a doctor. And we'll do it in just whatever. And then imagine a fast food worker. All right. So both of those are gonna go off and do their thing. And this is becoming something that's in the news quite a bit lately, is these are trained off of images that are on the internet. So it's whatever is popularly on the internet is the information it's learning from. So because we live in a society where chances are, if you go and Google a doctor picture, I might get Doctor Who. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm willing to bet that when all the doctors come up, they're all going to be white men. Maybe we've got a female on the top right. I don't know. Let's see. It's coming into view. No, we got all white men for doctors.
Okay.
And when we say fast food workers, are they all going to be white men? No, although one of them is. So that's interesting. So, like that is a big bunch of chips that dude's got too. So, that's kind of interesting. But you can, it's definitely gone McDonald's for most of these too. That's kind of interesting as well. Although it
The
says,
white dude's got the big chips.
I'm really worried there's a sign that says blood. I don't think that's a normal ingredient at McDonald's. So now I'm very worried. But you can kind of see some cultural bias creeping in. Look, another thing that comes up is you'll notice that I've asked it to render men. If you render women, you're probably going to get pictures that 15-year-old boys are searching for on the internet, unless you're really specific about it. So it's a result of what we gave it as a society. So a lot of these things are going to be biased.
Kris, on this point, I recently used the Microsoft Copilot Generative AI to produce some images for a presentation I was doing. And I asked it to do a particular figure in a particular situation. I specified a female. So it came up with a female, but there were 4 of them. One was white-skinned, one was yellow-skinned, one was brown-skinned, and one was black-skinned.
Yep.
So Microsoft is definitely thinking about that cultural bias.
They are. And that's because when people like Microsoft or Google release a new tool, immediately, like the company behind Midjourney, it's a bit, they're not really a massively public company, but Google is and Microsoft is. So there's immediately public pressure to address that kind of bias, and they go into it and help to change. Maybe it's the training set, maybe it's the weighting. I don't really know, but they do try and address it. And I think that's good. But it's still definitely something that can be beaten. That's really, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a really interesting outcome because I don't think it was that way when they first started. I think they took a lot of flack for that.
Well, it was very quick and they were very good images. They went
Were
over,
they?
they went over well.
Okay, that's good. All right, I was hoping that if I said a portrait aspect ratio on this one, it would be more of a close-up. Kind of, but not really. So maybe that was a bit of a fail. Is there anything else anyone is itching to try before we go back in and have a look at some styles?
Animals,
Animals. All
dogs.
right. Okay, so tell me about the scene this dog's in, and if you make it normal, I'll be very disappointed. So
No, we want action, large dog,
mhm.
action pack, action or exercise.
So I'll say running.
Yep.
Or okay, good. And where is this dog? Somewhere that you wouldn't see a large dog running. Let's do something
Alps, in the Alps.
in the Alps. Okay.
There'll be some burners.
What's that? Well, we don't want that. I want you to find something that's not normal. We're going to do something different and weird. So, a large dog running in the Alps, carrying.
Running on the moon.
Okay, well, let's go to the moon. Running on the moon. On the moon. That's enough. Let's see what we get. Let's just go with that and see what happens. So you started off with a bunch of photographers. Like, what a place to start. This is already your area of expertise. I did, for a different talk that I gave in London, I did render a picture of like attendees at this various conference, the name of the conference, and it was all old white dudes who were looking sad. And I put that on the screen. I thought I would get beaten up for sure. All right, so we got a large dog running on the moon. Well, it looks like it's pretty partial to golden retrievers,
Yeah.
which is, not bad. I'm a bit concerned that there are two moons, the moon that there's running on and the one that's in the background. So that's a bit weird, but okay. Let's try imagine a large dog in a space suit running on the moon with the Earth in the background. And let's go sort of a portrait orientation, and then let's go a dramatic movie poster. Let's try the movie poster thing of a large dog. Okay, let's see what we get. And while it's thinking, I'm going to go imagine a cartoon of a large dog in a space suit running on the moon. I could just cut and paste, but this gives you something to watch while it's thinking. While with the Earth in the background, you can see how bad my typing is.
Pretty good.
Free, and I'll kick that off. Okay, so the dramatic movie poster is coming into view. That's pretty cool. Reloading. What's going on? Here we go. We're still loading. All right. That's kind of cool. Got the Earth in the background. It looks
pretty good.
It looks pretty good. It looks like a dramatic movie poster. You could get some dramatic text in there, and it looks like it'd be all right.
Right, Roger's put his camera away now. He's just going to play with Midjourney.
Absolutely.
You can lose days to this. So that was dramatic movie poster. This is cartoon. Those look like what they should look like.
Can you blow up the top left?
Let's try it. Oh, I did the wrong one. Dang it. Sorry. Let's try this one. I'm not going to say those with the legs sticking out is providing a whole lot of oxygen, support for this dog, but all right. So there's a blown up version of it. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. So we're going to kind of get to the thing that makes me really uneasy about this is how little effort this took. How you guys are all photographers and you have spent years and years and years refining what you do and figuring out how the tools work and developing your eye and developing the style. And some of you, I'm sure, are gonna your work is recognizable because you have a way you like to do things, and it's taken you a lot of time. There's effort in it, and there's love, and there's none of that in this, right? This was just like that. It was unearned. I think that's one of the things I really dislike about this is I feel like, no, it didn't take any talent from me to make this, right? This is other people's work that has been ingested and learned from to create new things. And I know that's what we do as photographers too, just not on this scale. So, you can see why I'm a bit uneasy about it. Oh, that does look good though, doesn't it? Okay. All right. Let's go back to the slides for a little bit. And I'm going to talk about styles. So, um, I've mentioned before, like we have all these styles. Midjourney's been trained on all these different styles where the people that Midjourney, like all of these engines, they've been let loose on the internet to go and learn about things. Like you saw a Disney movie and it went, oh, okay, I know what Disney movies look like. Um, and you can reference specific artists with this as well. And that's not great. Um, there was a case a couple of days ago where it was one of the stock sites, and you can buy AI generated images on it. And people had generated images and they used the text in the style of Ansel Adams. So you could buy stock AI images, and the estate of Ansel Adams ripped them apart and said, "You have to take these down," and they did immediately. So like there's a fantasy artist. There's like swords and sorcery fantasy, really well known. Not to me, I can't remember his name. It's not very good. But now when you search for his work online, you get more rendered images from Midjourney than you get his actual work. It's it's impacted his ability to sell his work and to get commissioned for things. So like there's a whole lot about this that's really not great.
There was a program on Australian TV about the modeling industry, and you actually can say in the style of or look like, and then name somebody famous.
Yep.
And it actually produces that in the clothing or in the the advertisement you want. It's not exactly like them, but it's so similar that they're saying, wow, this is going to destroy the advertising industry from the point of view of the photographers, the stylists, the hair makers,
absolutely,
makeup, and so.
And that little thing that you just said is playing out in so many different industries, and we'll talk about that too. Another one of the fashion things that's being done is, I think it's Levi's did a campaign, and they're using like it's an AI tool that is like a specialist one, where basically you can go to their website and you can say, I'd like to see these clothes on a model that is this size and this skin color, to try and put your own measurements in, and then it'll show you what the clothes look like. And on the one hand, as a consumer, that's kind of cool, right? You get to find out more about this. On the other hand, no photographers, no stylists, no models, no nothing involved with that. So it's much cheaper for those companies to do that. And as photographers, that's probably something that we should be concerned about. All right. Talking about styles, there's a library of styles that I found that is really good. Let me go to my browser again and see if I have this. So did I have this open? I think yeah, that's it. This is a style called, or this is a website called Mid Library, and it includes a whole bunch of different styles. And you can see, hang on, let me just wander around. You can see just even scrolling through this. Oh, look, here's a style: raw texture, satin texture, bumpy texture. There's words you might want to use to prompt with. Let's see, let's go to search. Do I want search? I don't know what I want. They've changed how this looks. So all styles, classifier. Okay, so let's look at styles. Is there a style by artist? Artistic styles, primary subject, artistic techniques, color schemes. I think they've removed artists from this. They must have had a lot of pressure. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, filmmakers. Maybe they haven't done that. Okay, right. So you can see that maybe filmmakers is a bad example. Oh, I see what they're doing. They've moved some stuff around. Photographers. Okay, great. So if Ansel Adams is in here as a photographer that it's been trained on, but like enough of his work has been trained on that you could create an Ansel Adams image, or
And Curry.
did you see that?
No, but the style of the what's we call Afghan girl.
Right. Yes, I have seen
Up
that
there
go
on
by
the
as well,
right.
actually. Yeah. I'm just looking for one to see if there's one we want to try. Um, okay, well, is there a photographer whose style we want to try?
Tim,
Anybody? Uh, I've had to go at me as well, and no, I think probably Tim and
You're
I
not
are probably
listed, aren't
not
you?
quite. No, sadly or happily, one of
not
the
well
two,
known yet.
not well known. And I think probably Tim and I we have to die and our estate will get famous. At that point, you can probably use these to do it. But um, okay, does anyone have a photographer that has a really distinct, well-known style you want to try?
Try the espresso.
Okay, so let me switch back to here.
We'll go for some frozen moments.
Imagine a picture of a child dropping an ice cream in the Henri Cartier. Did I spell that right?
I think so.
Okay. And then let's try, imagine a picture of a child dropping an ice cream I'll let that go and do its thing. I'm going to go back to my little style thing and just find something else. Josh Adamski. That's pretty cool. I'm going to try that one. Josh Adamski. Let's try that. Yeah, I kind of don't hate this one.
That's
Maybe. Like, there's some weird scale things going on with the giant child towards the right, but you know. Okay, and you saw over here, this is the style of this Josh Adamski, who I'm not familiar with. I just picked it out at random, but you can kind of see. Come on, Midjourney, do your thing. Okay, Dallas, we'll give that a shot. Imagine a picture of a child dropping. Wow, those are cool. An ice cream. Okay. So you can kind of see it's the same prompt, but I've given it different styles. And in this case, I've given it different photographer names, sorry. And it's clearly doing something with that. We'll let this one render away and then we'll come back and get back to the slides in a second. But like you saw when I was scrolling through the style list, there are tons and tons and tons of things you could try. Okay, Dallas, you are going to be the judge about whether this is appropriate or not. Do you want to give this a score out of 10 as far as whether you think this is a good match? No pressure, Dallas. We're all watching the chat window to see what your score out of 10. 0. Oh, okay. Well, it is fallible then.
Gosh.
Well, no, it's okay. I said be judgy, and if he's got his judgy pants on, that's good. All right. So, okay, sorry, I was looking at that style. Hang on. There we go. Okay, good. I was looking at that style library. Let's go back to that. So this, the link for this is in the notes, but when you start getting to the point of having a bit of a play with this is probably a good thing to go and have a look at. All right. Okay, something that I like to do when I'm practicing is this is learning how to use Midjourney. I'll start with a picture and I will, oh, sorry, I've got my stuff run the wrong way. Who asked the question before about can you give it a picture and do something like that?
Yep,
Was
that
that
was from the floor here. Yep.
was it from the floor there? Okay, so because I'm an idiot, I forgot I even had this in the slides. But this is something you can do. You can take an image and you can load it and use it as a prompt. So this is an image that I did. This is actually for a theater production. So this is meant to look like the dude from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I can't remember his name. So bad.
Willy Wonka.
Thank you. It's meant to look like Willy Wonka. Anyway, so in Midjourney, you can give it an image and say, use this as a starting point. So I gave it this image and I said, show me this like a comic book. And you can kind of see, okay, well, it's a comic book version and it isn't pixel perfect. It hasn't taken this person and made them comic-y, but it's definitely taken inspiration from this image or an IKEA catalog. For some reason, I love rendering things as what IKEA would do it in an IKEA catalog. I don't know why. Um, or pop art was kind of pop arty already, so that was pretty close. Or an army of robots in colorful clothing. Some of these look really cool. There's one, okay, a television sitcom about friends living in a rent-controlled apartment in New York. I don't know if anyone can tell what I'm trying to make, but this kind of looks like a sitcom thing to me, so it does a pretty good job with that. Science fiction movie poster, that's pretty good too. So you can, oh, there's more. Exploded technical diagram. That's pretty cool. Game of Thrones, desaturated. There's scary stuff in there. So that's an example of Midjourney taking a picture and doing, I think, what you asked before, which is using it as an inspiration to create a new thing.
There are a couple of female renderings there as well from the male
Yeah, there
image.
were. I think even that first one. So
Yeah, bottom left. Yeah.
yeah, and like it hasn't exactly taken the jacket. It hasn't exactly taken the hands. It's just I don't know. And this is I recognize this is a computer software thing. It is not a person, it is not a life form doing this. But I cannot help but say things like, it's made this decision, which is very strange.
Chris, I note that all the faces are smiley now.
Probably because my source one was smiling.
Yeah.
So that's probably pretty helpful.
Yeah.
That's good. It's nice to know not everybody who's rendered is unhappy. So, there are happy people coming out of here as well. Let me show you how fast this stuff is changing. So this is a branding image that I shot. This is this is a show called The Great Grandioso, which is about a really terrible psychic who is just awful and takes your money and is not very magical, but she's awfully entertaining. It's a good show. And I was using this. So what I'll do is I'll try and reproduce a picture in Midjourney by prompting to get as close as I can. And that's how I've kind of taught myself to do this. So this is all photographic, what you're looking at now. And it's actually, aside from a little bit of toning and a tiny little bit of cloning, there's not much going on in there. The smoke was there in the shot, so that was pretty much a photograph. This is my first attempt at doing this, and this is a couple of years ago now. But blonde fortune teller with a crystal ball sitting at a table, blah, 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 and this was the result I got. Like this is a horror show, right? Look at those hands; they're awful, and the eyes, like something terrible's going on with their eyes. It's still pretty remarkable that a computer did this, but this is how things were a couple of years ago. And then this is how things were at the end of last year.
Wow.
Now, two things have changed. One is the engines are a lot better, but two is I'm a lot better at prompting. So you can see how much detail I've given in this one and how much detail I've given in this one. And I've been awfully specific about kind of the elements that are here and how it's put together. And if you were scrolling through social media and this showed up, you might not think it was AI. You might go, oh, okay, cool. That's just an ad for this show. So the one on the left was in June 2022. The one on the right was in December 2023. That is not that long of a time. And this is how fast things are changing. So a lot of people are kind of going, oh, you could never enter AI into a competition because it's obviously AI. It's not obviously AI anymore. It's getting harder and harder to pick. And I find as someone like going through social media on the internet, I'm always kind of keeping my eyes open for AI images, and you can still spot them, but I think they're getting closer and closer to reality. They always feel a bit soulless. That's probably the only thing I can think of. All right. There's another command in Midjourney called describe, which is kind of interesting, where you can give it an image and you can say describe it, and it'll give you some words that maybe will help you prompt with it. So this is not a bad thing to try as well. I've kind of had mixed success with doing this, but if you say /describe and then you use an image, then it'll maybe give you some things that will be helpful for you if you're trying to render it. Okay, so practicing stuff. This is absolutely how I get better at doing Midjourney stuff. I will start with a picture that I've already got, and try and copy it, or I'll use someone else's prompt as a starting point and I'll have a play with it, or I'll just do free flow stuff like we did with the dog on the moon before. So here's what I do when I'm reproducing a picture. This is a photograph that I took. So this is straight out of camera. This is when I said long exposure is my jam. This is stuff I love doing. And so I thought, right, well, could I generate something that looks like this? And this was my first attempt. So the prompt is a long exposure photograph of a cellist lost in thought while playing a cello with blues and teals to balance the wood tones of the cello. And it's given me that, but it's not exactly what I want. It's a guy for starters, and I wanted to have a female because I'm trying to reproduce this picture. The way the playing is happening isn't quite right. It's just not quite what I want yet. So this is changing that prompt a little bit. So I've changed and I've been more specific to say I want a female cellist, short dark hair in a black dress, and I want that chin lifted and lost in thought. And I've got, where's the cello? Instead of being kind of weirdly up here, I want it kind of resting between her knees. And that's getting closer. Like it's not exactly right yet. And when I was playing with this, I was doing lots of different variations on this. But this is a pretty good way of trying to learn how to do this. It's kind of like explaining, it's like having a 4-year-old that's a really good artist, and you say, draw me a picture of this. And you go, no, but taller, and does it again. That's kind of how I learn this stuff. We've got a little bit of time. How would you guys like to try one? And I've never actually had enough time in a workshop to do this. So who would like, do you want to try and make this image? This is an image that I shot for the Queensland Symphony Orchestra. I would like to try and reproduce this. Is anyone keen to have a crack at this?
Sure.
All right. So Tim, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. You're going to be helping with this a lot. So no pressure at all. But this image here, how would you describe this, Tim?
Did you shoot this one?
Actually, I shot half of it. So I shot the gentleman, and he's lit in a certain way to fit in with a plate that was shot by Mel Sinclair, another Queensland photographer.
Okay, yep.
So this is definitely a team effort.
All right. So I suppose the basic prompt is going to be a conductor standing on a coastline, looking at the sunrise.
I'm typing in the chat right now. I just have somewhere to type. Standing on the coastline, looking at the sunrise.
I was actually looking away from the sunrise.
Okay, well, let's change that. Looking
Side
away,
up.
looking side on. Okay, now is he standing on any coastline, or is he standing on rocks?
Rocks.
So let's say standing on rocks at a coastline.
Yeah, with surf breaking around the rocks.
Oh, I love it. Yep. Okay, surf.
Just depends what you get the first time, I suppose.
It kind of does.
You run it sparingly first to see what you get, and then put more information, or
I try to get as close as I can the first time, actually. So
Black suit.
Oh, good. I like your thinking. So I don't have two of these windows open at once. So
Yeah,
commit this image to memory in your head for now. And now I put zoom things in front of my buttons. Watch me struggle with using a computer. Okay.
you're probably going to need to tell it's got a cloudy sky as well for the sunrise.
Probably. So how have I? Oh, here we go. Okay, good. Let's go back to this. So, okay, we're gonna imagine this way. We got a conductor, a male conductor wearing a black suit.
It's a symphony conductor.
Oh, yes, because it could be a train. I like this.
Oh,
Raising his baton.
Bring a
the
black.
baton.
Good.
So as specific as we're getting, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go more specific than that just yet. So let's keep the baton thing for a little bit.
We get a bit of cloud in the sky as well.
Yep, let's do that. Standing on rocks at a coastline with waves. Do we want to say hitting the rocks? Let's try that.
Yeah.
Rocks. Early morning with color.
Yeah.
Clouds. Flouds. What's flouds? With colorful clouds. And that was probably aspect ratio. I don't know what it was. I should know because I had to prepare it for print, but let's just say 3:2. Let's say 16:9 because that's Tim's favorite.
Yeah, look more like 16.
Did I pick that right? Okay. I'm going to say it's a photograph of and then we'll say vivid colors. All right, let's see what we get. So that feels pretty specific.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of stuff we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about where in the frame the conductor is and what their expression is. We didn't do the baton thing, which we meant to not do. I imagine that we're going to have waves crashing over this dude when the time comes.
He'll be conducting the waves. Yeah.
It might be. Well, that's almost what we wanted this to look like.
Kris, you'll probably get to it, but when you have got something that you like, how do you then transport it?
Yeah, really good question. So essentially, like once you have something you like, you can this is pretty low resolution. You can upscale it to get a higher resolution one, and you like that takes time, and then you basically save that image as an image file. So and then you can go off and use it. And sometimes I will take those and I'll upscale them further if I need them for something. Like there was one background that I did for a commercial client that was like I needed it to be about 10,000 pixels by about 4,000 pixels, and it wasn't going to start with that. So
Yeah.
I think after the ideation, you might have to go and reshoot this shot, Kris.
Oh no, I'm done. We're done. Ironically, the QSO is now going full bore on AI art, so which is a whole other story. This is actually not bad.
Top left's pretty good.
Top left's pretty good. They've all got something. I actually kind of think bottom left
right's the closest to your shot.
Well, I don't know. I feel like this one's the closest because the sun's in front of him. He's on the rocks just there. So let's do this.
You need the baton.
Yes, that's where I'm going. Is the baton wearing the black suit? See, this is where I have you have to get it just right.
And you want to put him in the bottom left corner?
A baton. I have never quite figured out how to do that kind of where do you locate something in a frame and do that reliably. So that's I'm going to leave that for the thing to figure out on its own. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or was that pretty close? So the sunlight was hitting his face. I think that's important.
Yep.
Sunlight hitting his face. Let's.
I'm wearing a tie. Would that
What?
get us close?
I didn't quite hear that. What was that?
Wearing a tie, whether wearing a tie gets you any more stylish.
Oh, I smell what you're cooking. Okay, so while that one's off working away, wearing a black suit and a tie. So that's going to mean his upper body has to be turned a little bit more towards the viewer, and that could be the exact. That's the genius. That is genius. I don't know who said that, but was that the front seat driver again?
No, that was one of the holders of one of those PhDs that you were chasing.
Okay, right. Okay, trust the PhD people. It's interesting that tie, for starters, it's interpreted as a bow tie on at least one of them. But that baton is now, it's happening.
Yeah.
This looks like a Qantas ad.
He's conducting the waves.
He is conducting the waves. Well, That was kind of the intention of the original. So, and you know what? I'm sorry, the top right one is Doctor Who. That's
a bit Harry Potter.
Oh, it's Harry Potter too, yes. Okay. So hopefully you kind of get the idea of, right, this is why I've taken a picture that I know pretty well and I try and iterate to get the thing that I want. So, for example, that whole wearing a tie, such a good idea. If I add black shoes to this one now, it's probably going to show full length. So that's a really good way to go and experiment and try and learn these Midjourney tricks. All right, let's sit back over here for a little bit. Something else that I'll do is, as I'm practicing, is I'll take someone else's prompt and I'll use it as a starting point. So when you go to the Midjourney homepage, it'll just show you people's designs that are there. So I'm going to do that. Let's do that now. Let me change to the other browser. I was so excited about how I had this arranged and it's just not working at all. So let me reload the front page of Midjourney. So it's just showing whatever people have rendered recently. A whole variety of things, right? Does anyone see anything in here that catches their interest that they would like to use as a starting point?
Interesting, they got Banksy in there?
I don't know. I'm not searching for Banksy. Don't take over, Tim. Do we have it? Is anyone seeing anything? That's all we have. That's pretty lame. It must have more than that. Did anyone see any? What was that?
The elephant, I think, is the go the elephant.
Okay, cool. So
we've done all the landscapes. We'll do some wildlife.
So here we've got, this is the prompt that was used. Aspect ratio 65 to 88. How specific is that? So I'm going to copy that and we're going to go into Discord again and imagine.
So whatever you create, those prompts are available for anyone else to use.
Unless you are paying enough that you have a private server, yes, they are public. So there are all the stuff that we've been doing is available for someone else to find if they want. But there is so much being generated. Like I don't have any worries about it because no one's going to find this picture of a conductor and go, oh, great, because there's just squillions of images being generated every second. So
but I presume that people follow people. So if you find someone who you like their work, you'll follow them and use their prompts.
Yeah, and there are a lot of Facebook groups that are specifically about prompts and learning about prompts. And that's another thing that I'll do is I'll follow those and I'll go, oh, look, there's a really good technique. That's something I want to tuck away for the future. Okay, so this is interesting. If you go back to, oh, that's a different one. That was the last time I gave this talk. Okay, so this is the image that we looked at, and you can see the result that we got when we used the exact same prompt. We didn't get the exact same image, so this was kind of answering that question that we had before, but we got some stuff that was pretty similar. And that bottom left one is pretty similar, but you can kind of go, oh, okay, so what do I like about this? What do I want to change about this? Maybe you go, oh, I like all of that, but I don't want an elephant. So let's try a
Zebra.
You say zebra?
Yep.
Okay. Let's say an awkward zebra with a soft pastel background and soft watercolor illustration. That sounds really good.
Playing tennis or something.
All right. Let's see what we got. And I find there's so many people that are doing this. They're trying different techniques and then just kind of surfing around and finding things that people are trying, going, oh, cool, that's one I want to try. I'm learning a lot from doing that too. And then once you start becoming addicted to this bit here where you're waiting is terrible. So it's no fun. That's why I usually have multiple renders going at the same time, so that I'm not sitting around. I've always got something to do.
If you wanted a photo, you'd change the portrait to photo, I'm assuming.
I'd change there's a whole lot of here about in the style of a watercolor illustration, minimalist style. Like I would change all of that.
Figure out how that was a tennis racket.
I mean, that's pretty much how a zebra would hold a tennis racket, right? Like, I don't know what I was imagining, but this is probably better. So, good job, Midjourney. Yeah, so let's go back to this one, the elephant, because I think that will actually work pretty well. So let's try and make it a photograph. Oh, I forgot to say imagine again. Imagine uh, in the style of a, well, let's just in the style of a photograph. Let's say detailed photograph. Well, see, I'm just going to delete a lot of this stuff, right? Because that whole sentence now doesn't make sense. And then let me try one more thing. While that's going, imagine a cute elephant portrait. I'm going to change a whole lot of this to say in the style of an old biology. What are those books called that, would,
Yeah.
well, yeah, there's a special name for them. I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
the illustrative. The
yeah,
illustrative.
and okay, yeah, illustrative biology book. Okay, so while I was doing that, it was doing that style of a detailed photograph with a simple and clean white background, and those are the results. Okay, those kind of look like detailed photographs. Um, we'll let this one do its illustrative biology book. Kind of wondering how many of you are going to go off and try stuff like this now. Roger's already sold his cameras, so
Yeah.
it's ready to go.
I was thinking all of the wonderful drone shots that Tim has produced at the salt lakes, and I was interested to experiment with one of those and see what it comes up with.
And I'm not going to say change the aspect ratio because clearly square is what it wants. So we'll do this and then I'll move back to my slides for a second.
Here's a challenge, Tim.
Oh, it's no challenge, Roger. I think reality is better.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, see, this is what I mean. You could lose hours to this. I have definitely kind of gone, oh man, it's 2 in the morning. I need to stop doing this.
Have we got to the philosophy part yet? Or
No, we haven't even got to that yet. All right,
Oh,
look,
okay.
there's some colored salt lakes coming up. Oh, okay, they're not.
Fairly ordinary.
Well, like it's better than I could do with a camera, so I'm probably not going to complain
Yeah.
too much.
Oh,
See, let's upscale number 4. It's not looking. Oh, I love it. There's got a watermark in it, so it's actually trained from things that had watermarks. That's pretty interesting. All right, let's sit back over to here. Now, how I use AI, this is kind of interesting. So we've been mostly creating images that are like standalone images. I use AI for a whole bunch of different things. So one of them is inspiration, and I'll use it to help me if I'm coming up with ideas for an image, or styling guidance. How would I dress this character in this way? I've used them as backgrounds, both digital backgrounds and practical backgrounds, and I'll show you what I mean. And I've used them to create individual elements. And a lot of these are in the context of the commercial work that I do for theater companies. So inspiration-wise, I am putting a shoot together with a friend, and we know it's gonna be like she's gonna be in a white dress and she's gonna have angel wings, or like realistic looking eagly angel wings in a misty forest. And so I went, okay, well, let's render some pictures like that just so I get some ideas. And now I'm kind of going, oh, okay, there's styling ideas in here and how's she facing? And it's now and again there are little things in here that might influence how I do the shoot. You can see some ones at the start. It's put some makeup on her in a certain way. It's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting idea. So I've definitely used this to go and give me ideas. It's a lot like going and Googling to do a mood board for something, except you're kind of creating bespoke things. None of these pixels would end up in the final work, but it's giving me advice on what I might do. Another thing is styling guidance. So let's say I was doing a picture and I had an elven bard. I don't know what elven bards wear. I'm flat out styling myself, never mind what a medieval character is going to do. So I can go to Midjourney and I can ask it, help me style what's the wardrobe for an elven bard or a, a spy or, all different things. So I've definitely used Midjourney to help me come up with how to dress people in a shoot. I've used it for backgrounds in artwork for clients. This is going back a little ways. I did this is for a show called Oh Crap Damn It, that's about someone basically discovering they have OCD and what they went through. So shot them in the studio and then put them on a brightly colored kind of almost like a daycare background. As a viewer, you don't spend any time on that at all. It doesn't really need to be all that high fidelity. It just needs to kind of whisper, oh, this is in a daycare center, and then you're okay. So for that one, it worked all right. This is a show that just got announced like yesterday. So photographed some people in the studio, and you can, the one on the left is like the straight out of camera shot. Basically, it's the proof that I give the company. And then the one on the right was a background that I rendered specifically. Like you can see how I've lit it with a little like orange coming around the figures. So that was in anticipation of rendering backgrounds that would have like fire in it and stuff like that. This is for a show that hasn't played yet, but it's I love the sound of this. It's called Disney Off Ice. It's about reviving Walt Disney from cryogenic storage and then exposing him to current technology. And I think he's on a reality TV show and he goes crazy. Like it sounds like a really good production. I'm going to be photographing a live version of this. I'm looking forward to it. So I photographed this actor and a whole bunch of shots of him and his face, and then used AI to render a wall of televisions, and then used Photoshop to composite it together. So that's um, here's an example. The top left one is a render that I had of these TVs, which I did end up changing a little bit, but you can see that I've started adding those faces to it. Here's a different pose, and then coming up with like the final thing that was on posters and stuff like that. So for me that's a really useful tool, and I'll revisit this image again in a little bit too. I've created practical backgrounds with this. So this image on the left is straight out of camera, no cropping, no Photoshop, no nothing. While I'm experimenting with using techniques for like putting fire in her hand and stuff like that. And so for this, I rendered the image to be used as a background and I projected it on the wall behind her in the shoot. So now we're starting to skirt the line. Are there AI pixels in this or not? There kind of are. I was considering entering this in the Icon Awards, and their rules are very specific. If you have any generative AI in this, including what I've done, this is against the rules, so it didn't get used. I've generated textures, and then I've used those textures and projected them onto people for long exposure photography. So that's a pretty good use for this stuff. So I've got just libraries of really amazing, colorful textures and waves and water and fire and you name it. And you kind of have this endless variety of stuff that you can have for this work. This is a show, a performance of Pygmalion, and we shot this in a studio space. And the figure in the middle had all white makeup, and she had a white wig on, and was pretty much what you see here, but it didn't feel great to me because the wig looked like a wig and her belt looked like she bought it from Westfield, not like an old Roman thing. So this is the final image that was used for promotion. And if I kind of flick back and forth, you can see some of the differences. Aside from the other people, where I've added like, texture to them and whatever, there's a bunch of changes that I've made. So I've rendered that hair in Midjourney, and then I've used Photoshop tools to go and replace the hair that I shot before. Instead of having that belt, I've rendered a rope belt. I've rendered some stone which I put over one of the feet, and then I've rendered like the marble texture. While I was here, let's just use that. So I've used Midjourney as a tool to augment something that was from the original photograph. It's still largely photographic. I could never enter this in a competition because there are AI elements in here, but that's not its purpose. Its purpose is to sell tickets. So this helped me to, I didn't have to go to a museum and photograph a statue with the right kind of hair. I could render something. It was a lot like buying a stock picture, except that I could kind of experiment to get what I wanted. I'm doing an image right now that I've been commissioned, and it's about this guy's journey through mental health. And I was working on it and kind of using bits of stock that I had and going out and photographing things, and I wasn't quite getting what I wanted. And then I kind of started using AI to render pieces of it. So all these control panels here are things that I've rendered in Midjourney. So for example, this is how I've rendered this. I've said, give me, a wall in a bright, clean lab, blah, 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 and then a whole bunch of examples of that. And that's what I've used in the background of this picture. So I've used it to generate bespoke composite elements. And again, this is an image that I'll never use in competition. That's not its job. Its job is to help this guy tell his story. And this is what I think I'm doing, but I actually kind of went, hey, you know what? I wonder if I explained this scene to Midjourney, what it would give me. And this is one of the things it gave me. And I went, oh, look, there's a railing on that thing. The railing kind of makes sense. I'm missing a railing here. That doesn't feel realistic. So Midjourney is helping me to even think about elements that are going to be in a final image.
You put all these rendered images into Photoshop, is that correct?
For this one, yeah, I would take this image here and load that into Photoshop, just like you would a photo that you'd taken, and then use standard Photoshop composite techniques to bed it in. Yep. All right. I've mentioned a couple times age of the training set and why that's relevant. So it's really important to understand that when these are trained on things, that the training set is like a sample of the images that exist in the internet at that point in time. So if you have older ones, if it's an old training set, it's missing new information, which is kind of the question that we had before. But newer training sets are trained on AI images. So you can go out to the internet now and you'll find a lot of AI images just sitting there next to regular images, which are now being indexed by AI engines and used to train AI. This is not a good thing. So this AI images these engines will start to fall apart. There are some scientific terms that feel like PhD related terms. So you guys will be good with this, but a model, I can't even pronounce that word, autophagy. Anyone want to have a go? People have done experiments where they've taken a generative AI system, they've done some outputs, they've used it to train the system again, and after a couple of generations, it just goes crazy and faces melt and it's all out of control. So it's possible that generative AI will actually now start to get worse and worse because it's being trained on bad generated AI images. All right, so some legal stuff. We're into the legal and ethical stuff now. Because we're training this AI systems on content, that content comes from places. And a big concern is that a lot of times images are being used without the content owner's permission. So I think there's a website called Have I Been Trained? And you can go and find out if your stuff has been used. So I know a few photographers that they're not like world famous, but they have a little bit of notoriety and they've been trained. So you could potentially reference their names, and all without their permission. How do you feel about that? I don't know. I feel very good about it. And this isn't just, for imaging systems. This is for written work as well, and music and everything. We talked before about like photographer names or artist names and how those can be linked. So that's really problematic. For you, as someone that's maybe using Midjourney to go off and generate stuff, it's really important that you understand that if you're creating work, maybe it's going to violate copyright, possibly, if it's from a training set that is used without permission. I think the likelihood of that is really, really limited. And for the purposes that I use it, I think I'm probably going to be okay. But if you've had a big name company with deep pockets that used AI and it was revealed that they trained it on something that wasn't okay, they could get in trouble. There are systems that indemnify you as a user because they know they've been trained on things that are okay. So like Photoshop and Firefly and Getty have an AI generator, and they generate it only on images where they've already got license permission to use it. So chances are, if you've uploaded stock to Adobe or to Getty in the last 5 years, the agreement that you signed said it is okay to use this to train things. So that's how they're getting around the legality of it. And there are so many lawsuits around the place. So like late last year, there was a big deal with Hollywood studios and the writers going on strike. One of the big issues that was in that was around basically writers wanting protection from their jobs being taken by AI. And I think they got some of that. There's a whole lot of stuff around actors having their likeness, whether it's their voice or their face represented by AI. There are people that are now aware that they went in and did an audition, and the contract they signed said, we can sample you for AI. They were paid a small amount for that, and they've gone back out into the world, and the movie studio owns their likeness and their voice and can reproduce it as much as they like and use it everywhere. So there's a whole lot of that stuff going on, which is not great at all. So that's the legal stuff, ethical stuff. And we're not going to talk about this for another 30 minutes or 90 minutes or 17 hours, Tim, because you know we could talk about this forever. I've kind of mentioned this a couple of times. One of the things that is true about generative AI is it allows relatively unskilled people to rapidly create content. I'm trying not to be insulting. This is it's just a phrase, right? You could see us doing that, right? I didn't take any special skills, and I was able to make some pieces of work that would probably stand on their own. And I think the quality of what we're doing is not what a human can do, but it's really cheap, and that might be enough. If you are working for a company and you need to create some advertising, maybe you can use generative AI to make something that's 70% good enough, but it might cost 1/1000th of the cost that it did to get artists in. So that's probably a pretty compelling business case for people. I was reading this thing a while ago. There's a board game company, and they fired all their artists, and they started advertising for Photoshop people who could take bad composites and fix them, because they'd pretty much just started generating everything, but it was wonky and terrible. So they were hiring people who would try and improve them. We talked about the television and movie writers striking. Really, this is kind of interesting. Someone used, there's a scene in one of the Avengers movies, and someone basically reproduced that scene exactly with a prompt. I think it was in Midjourney too. And if you looked at it side by side with the movie still, like, it wasn't pixel perfect, but it was pretty clear that Midjourney had been trained on a result set that included that frame from the movie. And you'd think the movie studios would at that point go crazy and start suing people and make sure that didn't happen. And they're not doing that suing. And I assume that's because they're in talks with AI companies to have a permanent business relationship that will allow them to use these tools to generate content and cut people out of the equation. That's where I think this stuff is going. And I don't love that. I mentioned music before. Like, the last time I gave this talk, when it was done, a few people hung around at the end, and I got one of those tools out that could generate songs. And I said, "Oh, you want to generate a song?" Yeah. And we generated this song, and it was amazing. And they're like, "Oh, this is so cool. I can't wait to use this." And I said, "That's really funny, because I've got musician friends that this is the devil to them. But image generation, they're really excited about it, because it means they can generate art for themselves without having to deal with anyone else." So it kind of depends on what your artistic area is, which ones you're going to be more okay with than others. Here we go. Tim, I hope you weren't generating stuff for the Iris Awards. That's probably not going to be okay. Most competitions disallow any generative AI. And I'm being specific about generative AI. So if you've got an AI-based noise reduction tool, chances are that's going to be okay. And I can't speak on behalf of all awards. So, take anything I say with a grain of salt and always read the rules. But Camera Clubs New South Wales, I can't even speak. New South Wales says no generative AI. The Camera Club affiliated group in Queensland, the PSQ, is the same, no generative AI. The Australian Photographic Prize, which is coming up, no generative AI. New Zealand, no generative AI. Make sure you do the right thing. You know what? If you cheat in a competition using generative AI and you get found out and you get in trouble, I'm going to be there cheering when you get busted. So I don't want to see that stuff getting into our competition stuff. I want photography.
No generative AI in the Mossman Photography Awards.
There you go. So let's make sure we respect that. And
doesn't Lightroom though say that it's AI?
Lightroom has a lot of AI stuff, and an example of that might be, there's a new tool that does kind of out of focus backgrounds and stuff, and I think there's AI in that, but it's not generating new things. No. However, Lightroom does now have tools like the clone tools that are in Lightroom. Until maybe 4 or 5 months ago, they were more traditional cloning tools that didn't use generative AI. Now there is one in there that does use generative AI. So those tools are making their way across. You need to be aware of what you're using.
Yeah.
And I keep saying generative AI because it's a specific flavor of AI where it's about for images, it's about the pixels that you created versus the ones that it created. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and each competition is going to have its own terminology around this. I would say just please follow the rules. Please do the right thing. Please do not allow this art form of photography that we love to be diluted by allowing AI stuff into the images that you're creating.
Was it the IPA that included a AI category this year?
Yep. And I've seen a couple of them doing that. I've seen, what was it? I forget what it was now. There was a competition last year, and geez, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, you could pick from 1,000 miles away. There was some AI in the final winners, and they didn't have it in their rules yet, so they had no basis to disqualify people. And they've changed the rules since then. There
Well,
are some.
It's probably the more sensible way of going, is that you just channel people into that category rather than trying to sell their stuff in one of the other categories.
Yeah, I think so. Out from the Mist is a competition that I'm affiliated with as a judge, and I've been working closely with them on the AI stuff. And for a little while, we were thinking about having a category for AI images like, because it allows relatively unskilled people to generate things. If you are suffering from an illness or you feel a certain way, maybe it gives you tools to express how you feel, things you didn't have before. So that'd be really handy. Around the time we were starting to write rules in about that, there was a whole lot of stuff about generative AI, basically doing deep fakes of actresses that were not great. So we kind of went, no, let's just stay away from this because there's so much potential for this to go horribly wrong. You guys remember this? I showed you this image before with the Disney Off Ice thing. I was really annoyed I couldn't enter this in competition. And I decided, right, well, even though I finished this work for a client, I'm going to go out and I'm going to source myself some televisions. And I found a place that rents TVs for theater companies. And I went and reshot everything and have created a competition legal version. So the one on the right is 100% competition legal. There's no AI in it, and it's raring to go. So and it'll show up at the Iris Awards, and I have the raw files submitted with it. So hopefully we're going to be safe.
That's quite a folder of raw files you're going to have.
Yeah, it's not unusual for me when I'm submitting raw files to have 50 of them for one image. All right, I've got a couple more slides I'm going to go through. Let's talk about kind of what the future brings for this. There's a lot of tools that have more specific control, and I kind of referenced this earlier. There's things where people are creating architectural diagrams, and they're feeding it into some more advanced tools and then using AI to generate everything else, but keeping that structure exactly right. So if you want to learn the tools for this, there are much more sophisticated things that you can do. And I'm not doing anything sophisticated at all. There are some really, really clever things you can do. A lot of the conversation about how is this going to kill photography? And I think, Tim, you said it before, like this will kill advertising. Yeah, I think my instinct is anything that relies on authenticity is going to be safe. So I think if you were to rock up to work one day and say, hey, everyone, I'm back from my honeymoon. Look, here's a generated photo of people that look like me and my wife. Or no one's going to get a giant canvas of a rendered dog on their wall. They're probably going to want an actual photograph of their dog, or, here's a rendered picture of a baby. I think a lot of that stuff is safe. I think people value authenticity. Where there's going to be trouble is like advertising, fashion, stuff where maybe authenticity isn't that important. Maybe it's about selling something else. That said, I've started to see more pushback on social media. There's a meme doing the rounds right now along the lines of, hey, advertiser, when you use AI, it's a pretty good indication to me that you're really cheap, and I'm not sure I want to spend my money with you. So there could be some blowback about kind of companies that choose to invest in AI for advertising as actually not being great. We're never going to put this away. There's no way you can legislate against generative AI. It's with us now. It's not going anywhere. I think that's why it's important that we learn about it, because you might use this as a tool the way that I do. You might just want to be aware of it, but I think not being aware of it's a problem. As photographers, we need to know what's around, and this is a big deal. And that, in a wonder of time management, with 5 minutes to go, I have reached the end of my slides. Sometimes things work out okay. There's a link here which has it has information that like links to mid-journey setup guides and stuff like that. So, I said we weren't going to try that in the class, but there's some references there that you can use. These slides should be there, and if they're not, I will put them there. And Tim, I'll send you this URL as well, so you can send it out. Actually, I'll probably just put it in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's right. Just pop it in the chat.
Is it going to let me do it? Oh, it is, because I'm not even in presentation mode. So I'll put this in the chat. But in the meantime, all right, it's in the chat, so go for it. We got a few minutes for questions. So, and you guys have a lot of questions, and you did a really good job before with them. So I'm expecting some doozies. So hit me with your questions. I like how Roger's not even coming off of, he's just staying without being
Okay,
ready.
I was thinking of Topaz, where they talk about generative AI, but I think you answered that because I use that for sharpening and noise reduction, but that's not considered illegal because you're using your own pixelated images.
Yep. And I think, so sharpening and noise reduction is a really good example of AI kind of what they would consider to be okay. It's interesting though. I've taken some really, really noisy images shot with stupidly high ISOs, and then run them through noise reduction. And it's like, yeah, that's not that person's face. Like it is, I wonder sometimes if it is using generative AI techniques to reconstruct things. I don't know. So I'm probably never going to take something shot at 128,000 ISO and put it in a competition. But I think you're probably safe. But again, I would go and read the rules. And if you have questions about it, contact competition organizers and just ask them, because it's better to get an answer to that ahead of time than get disqualified later and all the shame that comes from that.
I think sorry, Tim, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in Photoshop, when you do the lasso tool and right click on it, you've got the choice of content aware or generative
AI.
Yeah,
that's right. So you can use the content aware bit, but as soon as you click on the generative fill, then you're buggered.
Yeah. So this is some slides that are from that I deleted because I thought we run out of time, but there we go. So generative fill and generative expand are the ones to watch out for, and content aware and generative are not the same thing. So this is an example of me basically taking an image, selecting an area and replacing certain pieces of it with new content. So the stuff you can do is quite powerful. Taking a person, changing what they're wearing. Any of you who know Faru and Afshin, I really made fun of them. This is one of their profile pictures, and it's like, let's have some fun. Let's put them in other places. And it's like, this is really good. I may have maybe gone overboard on some of them.
Love the grumpy cat.
It's a lot of fun. I use generative expand sometimes to take an image. This is an image of mine that's a composite image, and I said expand it out and fill in the gaps. I find this crazy. Like, it's maintained the visual style, and this is the original image, and this is the style that it's filled in with. Something else I love to do is take people in a Zoom call or whatever and take their faces and then expand them out to figure out where they are. It's kind of a fun. So this is Jess, and that square in the middle is an actual photo, and the rest of it's all generated. That is a fun hobby of mine. So if you're ever bored in a meeting, taking people's Zoom pictures.
So what have you done to Roger?
Nothing. I've been too busy talking. And everyone's been too busy listening. They're not bored enough to go and do that trick. So hopefully that's okay.
Kris, it's been a fantastic presentation.
Oh, I'm glad you've got something from Roger. That's good.
Oh, I've seen little bits and, of things that people have been talking about where you can sort of go in and say, generate some more images and things like that, which I asked you about. But this is another whole world entirely.
And hopefully this has given you enough information as a bit of a springboard for you to go off and start experimenting. because we all use this stuff differently. And now think of all the money you'll save from buying camera equipment now. I'm kidding.
Actually, I'm thinking of all the money that my grandchildren will be able to make if they become proficient in these areas, because when anybody loses their industry, the industry that replaces it becomes much bigger and more accessible to a whole lot of other people. And I think digital photography, for example, exactly that, to film photography. And now, there must be tens of millions more photographers in the world than there was when it was a lot harder to get good images.
And there will be a lot more people who are able to use prompting to do things. So you're probably right. I think there's another meme doing the rounds where I had hoped that technology would mean that technology would like clean the house and do laundry so I could do art. Instead, technology is taking care of the art, so I've got time to clean the house and do laundry. That's not what I want. So
that's smart. So I presume it won't be long before you can talk to the prompter and have a more direct discussion with what it's producing.
You can do that now.
Yeah. You chat to Siri at the moment and she answers. So you're going to be able to prompt just like Siri.
You can there's demos of people having conversations basically in real time. I used a system called Claude, and I explained the rules of like APA New Zealand style judging, and I fed it images and asked it to score it, and then what would it say in the challenge? And you know what? At first glance, it looked like it was okay. In reality, it probably wasn't all that great. And then just for fun, as a last thing, I asked ChatGPT today to, let's see, where are you? I hope this is in here. I'm on the right thing. Yeah, okay. I said, so here's my face. And I said, roast me. And this is what it's given me. So this is...
Looks like they're the lead singer of a garage band.
And I roasted my friend Matt Palmer as well.
If you can send me that, I can update your profile on the Moscow.
No, that's okay.
Judges.
That is all right. I'm okay. I did actually ask new ChatGPT to go out and write a bio for me, searching the internet to get it, and do a short, a medium, and a long one, and it did a reasonably good job. So I'll pay that. That's pretty good.
I'm not sure if you saw the carry on between Tom Putt and Ignacio last week, but Tom asked it to explain why Tom was a better photographer than Ignacio.
Oh man! And
they don't talk anymore.
Oh, I was going to say maybe I should ask it about Timothy Moon and Robin Moon and get it to explain, which one's a better one.
Oh, that's dangerous territory.
Yeah, it is. That Claude tool, I gave it a long exposure image and I said, explain how this was done. And it did. It did a pretty good job at explaining it was a mix of continuous lighting and strobes. And I was really surprised. So it's, I don't know, I'm equal parts amazed and scared by all this.
Yeah.